Talking about that, actually, what do you think about Groupon? Because I've always said, I'm not the only one, a bank understands its commercial banking customers super well, understand and has access to personal banking customers. You've got GPS now, you've got great application. When is it that you're going to start, adapt a bit and provide the same service, putting more exposure, giving visibility to your small businesses?
One of the really interesting things about coming to work in a bank, having worked for the last 20 years in technology, in the technology sector, there is a real feeling always that you have to own everything. Like, no one can survive independently. You have to own everything if you're a tech company. Whereas here at the bank, it's really interesting because you're dealing with a 100-year-old institution that has got really comfortable with the idea that different people can make different money in different parts of the ecosystem if we all work together. And there's a certain utility and convenience in that. So you take MasterCard, for instance. Now, people say to me all the time is, well, what, you guys could just cut the credit card companies out now because you could just build an application for your phone. Yeah, but that's going to cost me a huge amount of money to build the brand, to build the trusted relationships, to underwrite the risk, to manage the payments. No way. That's a terrific relationship, not just because we're good partners, but because they provide huge value in the utility. So you look at a Groupon and you say, yeah, tomorrow morning I could build a really powerful coupon platform because I have the merchant data and I have the buying data and I have the geolocation data. I could do all kinds of things. But what we think is really exciting is our ability to take a Groupon, should they choose to come to Australia in any significant way, or even a local Australian company. You come down to Australia and New Zealand, we build the best imitators around. They just look at what's going on over there and go, well, we're going to do that.
Let's build it. Yeah, exactly.
So partnering with those guys and letting them make money in what they're really good at, and we'll continue to make money what we're really good at, that's really exciting. Because that advances the market far more quickly. And we're kind of dependent, actually, on things being open. We're really dependent on things. So the more we would close things down by trying to do all that stuff ourselves, we'd actually disadvantage ourselves over the long run. Whereas by keeping it open, we preserve customer choice, and that gives us a bigger playing field to go play on as well. So I think that partnering with the Groupons, the Living Socials, the variants and flavors of those down here, what I do think is going to be really interesting for us is we've got a lot of terrific, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of very small businesses that bank with CBA. Over close to 500,000 on NetBank alone use NetBank as their primary platform, right? And 1 million or so more that are on our business platform. So they're a bit more mature as businesses go. So you look at our online space and you go, wow, I've got all these cool young businesses. And then I've got millions and millions of customers online every day. What if I could build a better way for those small businesses and entrepreneurs to reach my customers where it's relevant? That's something I'm really excited about. You know,
that's your thing about it. Within that,
and I want to do that. I want to help those businesses that are banking with CommBank, you know, do really, really well. And
that makes sense.
And I got millions of customers that I can incent to do business with them.
I can't wait to see that and cover that on Visible Banking.
No, it'd be great.
So we talked about the application very briefly. You do a few things from NFC, so enabled payments. So you use the case to the iPhone because it's not built in yet. You can send payments to people, so P2P payments via mail, via Facebook. And I'd like to talk about social now. I think it was a very sleek integration when you see the contact, Facebook friends embedded in your application. Select the person and you send the payment very easily, whether the person is a customer or not. Social, you kind of built it at Dell. What's your vision of social media at CBA and in the banking industry?
There's really there's a lot more than this, but there are really 3 big pillars that we're looking at right now for social at CBA. The first big pillar is around content and community. So how do we aggregate and bring together communities of interest? A great example of this is we've launched a community called Women in Focus. If you look at the millions of small businesses started in Australia every year, 60% or more are started by females. And so we're building a world-class community. We're using Jive as the platform with full Facebook integration. And the idea there is to bring all our great women entrepreneurs that are banking with us. We put on a physical conference, sort of a TED-like conference for them. We do lots of other stuff, but this online community is going to become an epicenter. So that's a great idea of that content and communities coming together. And of course, we write once, run everywhere. We grab that content that goes to e-zines, it gets fragmented into other blog properties. You know, so it's really exciting. So really, really interesting. Second big thing is seemingly dull to a lot of people, but if you look at Twitter, for instance, it's service and support. It's and some of it is, great example here, we had a woman that tweeted from her phone, at the mall, lost my credit card, no card, no shopping, oh no. And, and that immediately gets pulled up by our monitoring team, who then responds to her and said, hey, it's so-and-so from CBA here, which mall are you at? She comes straight back and goes, okay, this is a little weird, I'm at this mall, and we're like, well, there's great news, we have a branch in the mall, it's open on Sundays, and we can issue you a new card in under 30 minutes. Would you like me to arrange the card so you can go and pick it up?
Yeah, that's...
And the woman's just like, oh my God, I'm sort of ranting and raving to my friends about having lost my card, and the bank intercepts that and solves my problem. So that's an extreme example, but a lot of other stuff goes on in there. So this notion of using the Socialverse as a listening platform for us to provide better and better service and support is really important.
You do it on Facebook as well, on the wall.
Yeah, really active. Exactly. We can do so much better too. I mean, we're just starting. The team has done a great job of getting us there. What we talk a lot about is the difference between progress and potential are two different things in social, really different things. So we talk about, hey, we've made great progress. We're the largest bank online in this country, 58,000 followers. Facebook, the potential is 2 point something million followers.
That's correct.
So how do I reach the rest of them? Because they're on Facebook.
Do you need to reach the rest of them, or do you need to be more
we need to be
smarter? But the quality of fans is very important as well.
We need to be relevant, and we need to operate with context. The last thing I want on my Facebook wall is my bank, cluttering it with drivel. There's an airline down here. There's an airline down here at the moment who I follow on Facebook. It's just cluttering my wall with all kinds of drivel about all the stuff they're doing, and I'm about to unfollow them because I'm just bored with it. I want them to communicate. I want to be communicated when it's relevant, when it's important, when I need to know stuff, right? Yep. So that's that sort of second pillar. The third pillar is sort of the unscratched opportunity around marketing, around how do we reach the customer that hasn't banked with us or has banked with us, and we want them to reappraise their decision not to bank with us. Okay. So I just think in brutal terms, you've got to look at this as a marketing channel and say, this is a great way to engage people. It's so much more efficient than traditional media. And we're looking increasingly at better modeling of the traditional marketing mix in banking. So we say today, maybe it's TV with a lot of Facebook, maybe very little print. So we don't know what that future will look like, but we're investing a lot in comprehending those models that will underpin our investment decision making. So that's a third big pillar. And there's about 10 other pillars I can take you through, and I'm happy to take you through the whole strategy and get your input on it. But social is going to be an enormous part of our game plan going forward.
It's good to hear. It's excellent, actually. Yeah, the customer care is one field where banks are trying to do better and better. In the US especially, that the Bank of America, Citi, Amex, Wells Fargo, and so on and so forth. Content strategy is important on Facebook, as you mentioned.
Yeah, content's huge. I mean, that's where a huge amount of the revolution has taken part. Probably Amex with its Amex Open Forum sort of blazed the path globally. They're the best-in-class example. We just want to shamelessly emulate that down here.
Why not? Now, Amex has done very good, and they do great on B2C and B2B as well. So that's the beauty of Amex. It's totally integrated to the business model. They believe in it, and they would organize offline events. When you mentioned that, that's the key in online communities.
The interesting thing about banking and why banking is so relevant and social is, and I say this somewhat lightheartedly, banking is completely meaningless in the social world. No one cares about banking. What they care about is the life events that go on, and banks as a whole, we have an absolutely integral role in nearly every one of those life events. Buy your first house, buy your first car, go to university, getting married, first big vacation overseas. You go through that list of the 30 or 4 major life events you're going to experience in the next 10 years, I promise you, your bank's going to be in the middle of them. So our conversations, and the thing we're working really hard on, is our conversations online should not be about banking. There is a small group out there, big financial decision makers, CFOs, big investors. They want to hear our views on the economy and from our economists and all of that. But that is a banker conversation. The other 95% of our customer base, they want conversations with us about those life events.
Totally, yeah.
how can I save more money? You know, when you get online and you say to people on Facebook and you see a customer, I saw a customer the other day, it was a great example of this, posted up, hey, I've just got my term deposit, my first term deposit ever with the Commonwealth Bank. I think it was a really good decision, and blah, 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 blah. And does anyone know when my interest gets paid for my term deposit? And immediately, before we could even respond, a customer came back online and said, you're right, it's a great decision to have a term deposit. I've been banking with CBA for like 20 years. It was a really good decision. This is when typically your term deposit interest gets paid, unless you own this kind of term deposit, in which case it gets paid this way.
Yeah, it's
and
fascinating.
And you're like, that's a really good answer.
Yeah, like,
you know, and that's customer to customer.
Indeed.
And so we just see enormous opportunity about harnessing that power around life events and getting that right.
And talking about that, I mean, the fascinating topic is the voice of the customer, VOC. Yeah. How is it that you can capture it in a systematic and secure way and use that in a public manner? One characteristic could be customer reviews, and you know that at Dell because you know you implemented that a while ago.
This notion of institutionalizing listening in the purchase path and post-purchase path through reviews that we think is critical. We are deploying IdeaStorm from Salesforce.com, which we built at Dell, as a way of what we call sort of open sourcing innovation with customers. So that's sort of that's more vectored towards product and service development.
Exactly. A bit like First Direct with their labs.
Exactly with their lab. And we have a whole lab like that today, but it's more of a closed environment. We're going to open that up and deploy that. And then the next step, we're active in, we use Alterian and Radian 6 for listening. And so we are really actively listening hard to customers and then aggregating that into data, which we then, you know, roll back to market with and use to inform product decisions and stuff. And we're just scratching the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we have millions and millions and millions of conversations every week. You know, I'm really interested in how you deploy listening at the branch. You know, how you use social listening. We're looking at Drive and other platforms like that for listening in the branch. So, yeah, it's really exciting.
I mean, again, we could spend hours, so I know you're conscious of time for you as well. Yeah. You talked about listening, and you kind of built, or at least, again, you were deeply involved at Dell as well, I believe, in the reputational management. Yeah. To me, I mean, the value has shifted a bit. It's not just like flagging like occurrences, then saying we've got 1 million hits last week. You've got limited resources. The value is to be able to prioritize and to identify your most influential or important contributors. So what do you think of that segment, almost the influencer management / consolidating a list of the most influential people and engaging with them on regular basis? That's the main thing that nobody does.
I'm actually giving a speech on this on Friday at a conference in New Zealand. It's a really hard area to crack the code on, in the sense that there are a whole class of what I call micro-elite journalists now. Mm-hmm. Probably yourself is a good example of this. You are an elite cover of the financial services sector. If I was to go talk to News Corp, that's always just a blogger. But no, you're an elite coverer of our sector. So those people are really important to find and talk to because they have a huge amplification effect. What we've come to understand is that the influencers are important, but actually the content is more important. Mm-hmm. Because someone who may not even be on your radar could pop up with really interesting content that suddenly gets amplified, without the influencers, reach a huge amplification. And so really it comes down to, you've got to manage those influencers, but any fragment of content can be amplified in such an extreme way now. It's much more about understanding how am I going to create the right behavioral norms to react to good content, bad content in the right way. That's what becomes really important.
Okay, it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a concept of what I call KYC, KYF, know your followers and fans.
Yeah.
And again, very few institutions understand. Yeah. This on Twitter, you've got X thousand followers, but who are those people? Very few banks can tell me. Oh yeah, we know that 20% are clients. Those are interesting.
We've done a huge amount of work on that, and it is so hard to do. And the classification of the followers gets even harder when you've done it once, and then you go, yeah, but what's a follower? You know, like, just because they liked us on Facebook, how long did that take? That's like 1 second. Mm-hmm. Totally. And most people can't even be bothered unliking you. So, you know, we measure that stuff, but what we're now trying to do is draw a much tighter correlation between what we call social events. So you may be a follower. Did you check in at a branch? Have you liked an ATM location? People people check in quite frequently and go, hey, this is my favorite ATM, it's the easiest to use, it's always great, it's never out of cash. And so it's weird, right? I mean, people coming from tech to banking, if someone had told me that, I would have been like, really? They do that, huh? No, they do that. So, we're trying to look at that stack of social events and say, how do people intersect them and how do they relate to us socially, and how do you build a thumbprint and say that is that type of user.
That's fascinating.
Exciting. Yeah,
fascinating, exciting. Yeah.
But just scratching the surface. Really exciting.
We are, yeah. But thanks a lot for your time, Andy.
Hey, thank you.
I wanted to give you that a signed copy
reading it. That's super.
of my book. And again,
yeah,
best
wishes.
So much, yeah.
Cheers.
See you
thanks
soon.
so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Go All Blacks.
Yes, exactly.